Hello, today I'm going to talk about the fascinating topic of dimensions. You might have heard about dimensions from different areas, for example, mathematics or physics or even spiritually in fifth dimensional beings or even sci-fi movies. And I have linked below to several videos that talk about dimensions in that sense. But if you notice, dimensions is an elusive topic. People talk about it and think about it and feel intuitively there's more than the three dimensions that we talk about. At the same time, nobody really knows what dimensions is. So they propose theories trying to explain to others. So they propose theories in order to give an idea of how is it possible for dimensions or more than three dimensions to exist. Now, back in the early 20th century, time was proposed as a fourth dimension. Now, people find that controversial. You're adding time to space, the three-dimensional space. And mathematically speaking, this means that where you put axes that are perpendicular to each other to get the dimensions needed. For example, when you start with a point and you have a line, and then you have a square, for example, and then you have a cube, and then you have a hypercube, what they call a hypercube or a tesseract. But still, people don't really understand time as a dimension in the sense that, well, time is taking more as a duration, it's taking more as movement in the three dimensions, where things are not static in a sense. In that way, time is taken as a fourth dimension. Even with all that, what I'm going to address today is more of perspective of dimensions from a psychological point of view or a conscious point of view. Now, a theory has been proposed about dimensions or awareness in consciousness, which is called spiral dynamics. But I'm not going to address that either. You can look it up. But even the theory itself does not really address what is happening within the psyche. It's more of a social theory about dimensions. But rather what I'm going to talk about is dimensions from an individual point of view. What happens to the psyche when we move from one dimension to the next? Basically, it all begins with perspective, and it's always about perspective. There's a very wonderful book called Flatland, and I link to a movie of the same name based on the book if you'd like to watch it, where it talks about how people from a one dimension, two dimension, and three dimension see the world. Now, a person from a second 2D perspective cannot see things from a 3D perspective, and what they see is basically things that are very flat in nature. So a person from a 3D perspective can see more than a person from a 2D perspective. It's like, for example, being in a room and sitting in a chair. You only see what is in front of you. And then a person who stands up and is able to move around 360 degrees is able to see more of the room than a person that's sitting down in one place. And then a person on the second floor looking down on the two other people is able to see more of the room than the two other people. And this is how basically, in terms of perspective, when a person goes from one dimension to the next, their perspective changes. Because your perspective changes, you're able to see more of what is happening around you. And we talk about it's higher in the sense of frequency. When we talk about energy, it's higher in the sense that you are more aware of what is around you and what is actually present than a person who sees from another dimension. Just like the example I gave about the people in a room. And the higher you go into the dimensions, you're able to see more of what is really going on. So you're more aware of what's going on. And some people call this ascension, and some people may call it, increasing your frequency, etc. And in a sense, you become more balanced with what is actually present. Now, I don't really know how many dimensions there are. There's many theories talking about, like only 5 dimensions, 9 dimensions, 10 dimensions, it doesn't matter. But the idea is nobody really knows how many dimensions there are. But you will notice a shift in your perspective whenever you go from one dimension to the next. You will see things that you didn't see before. And then you will be able to know that you have ascended a dimension. And one important point is all these dimensions exist at the same time. You really need to understand that. It's not like you go to another place. No, you're still in the same place. It's just you're able to see more of what you are in at the moment than a person who is at a lower dimension. And don't take lower and higher in terms of hierarchy. It's just a way of expressing what's going on in terms of frequency. So let's begin. I'm not going to start with a point because I consider a point as infinite. It's something that is way deeper than we can imagine. In the first dimension, or looking at things at the first dimension, is basically stuck in the same place. This person only sees things in the same way. Nothing really affects this person. Person remains stuck in their own perspective, unable to move on with life, is living the same loop. When go back to my video about time loops, is living the same loop again and again and is unable to leave that. And this type of person is usually a very in low moods. Usually people in depression feel stuck, people who are very stressed out, they're unable to sense any movement in their life. In a sense, they feel like life is passing them by and they're stuck and they feel they're unable to actually do anything about it. This is a person seeing things from the first dimension because they are unable to see any options. They are unable to see any choices, any sense of change. The second dimension is a person who sees the world in terms of duality. And we've talked about duality before. This person sees things in black and white, good and bad. There's no gray areas for this person, either this or that. They usually see things in more two options kind of thing. You either have this or you have the other thing, and they don't see any other choices other than these options. And this kind of person usually feels they're always a fork in the road. Always need to choose one over the other, and one is better than the other and the other one is not really good, and they always feel they might have been choosing the wrong choices all their life because they feel also a sense of there's looping in their lives, as in things don't really change very much, as in they have choices, they make choices, but things remain the same. They don't find themselves moving on with life. Or a person with a third or looking at things from the third dimension sees things more in depth psychologically. I'm talking about not in the sense of height or mathematically speaking. In depth in the sense they are able to read between the lines. They feel, or in the sense, and they understand there's more to an event, there's more to an idea than what is just in front of them. That there's more to things in life. And because of that, they're able to see the gray areas in things. So they moved on from the black and white kind of thinking. And they see there are gray areas. Things could change. Things don't need to be this or that. It's okay to have things that are murky or not really just two options kind of thing. And this opens the idea of there's more options to life. That you're not really stuck. You're not really repeating yourself. Or a person from the fourth dimension, we've talked about this before, a person from this dimension is able to notice that time is cyclical. Most people really just view time as linear, as in there's past, present, and the future. And they move on like in a straight line. That's not time. And we talked about that in the time loop video. Time is cyclical, and people who notice time is cyclical begin to notice the loops they go on, the events that repeat themselves in their lives, even in different situations. And due to subconscious programming, due to thinking we're making different choices, but really not making any different choices, we're choosing the same choice and again. We notice all of this when we are from looking at things from the fourth dimension. Here, we understand that time is in terms of perspective. Time is not really separate from us. Yes, we do calculate time by using the sun and the moon, and years go by, and time goes, and clock goes by, etc. No, I'm talking about time in terms of perspective, as in you feel that time is passing quickly, time is passing slowly. It is very relative. And in terms of quantum physics, some people have said have proposed theories that time would not really move unless there's an observer that is observing it, in a sense noticing that there's time passing. And I've linked to a video that talks about that. In the fifth dimension, so a person from, as I said before, a person from the second dimension is able to notice people in the first dimension and notice things that are stuck in their lives. And a person, so it's not like you move and you can't notice the dimension before. No, you notice everything below the dimension you're in. So a person from the fifth dimension is able to notice time and the loops and the stuck points and the dichotomies and duality. A person seeing things from the fifth dimension, and you notice in spiritual circles they talk about this very much, about being a fifth dimensional being, as a person who notices all that. At this point, you are able to make changes in your life that are very dramatic. If you live in a perspective that is non-dual, where to you there's nothing that is actually this or that, everything is connected. And usually in all my videos, I talk about things that are connected together, and even the dimensions are connected together. So what you're seeing is everything at the same time. So you're seeing more of what is happening, as I mentioned before. And this is really important, because if you're able to see the different choices, and you know that everything is connected, and you know where the loops are and where the stuck points are, you're able to change that. Then you are responsible, then you are able to make a significant decisions in your life. You can change your life to whatever you want it to be. And people sometimes, scoff at the idea, it can't be that easy. If you notice the stuck points and the loops, it's not saying it's easy, no, but it's possible. It's very possible. And a person in the fifth dimension begins to be able to do that. Now, if I'm going to talk about more dimensions, this is going to be more theoretical and more personal in nature, because all of this is based on patterns that I've noticed within people who are not aware and people who are aware, and even personally within myself. So when you cross to the sixth dimension, and some people say that in the sixth dimension is able to do some abilities that are more considered as paranormal, even though they're not really paranormal, but other people consider them paranormal because they think most people are unable to do it. But really, it is more of being open to the ability and being able to touch with that ability. And some people have talked about, telepathy or teleportation. Views things in the sixth dimension is basically viewing all the dimensions below them. This person has made or lost most of their stuck points and their loops, so they're not anymore linked to the lower dimensions in a heavier energy. So they're higher energies. They're not really chained anymore to certain points in their life. So they're more wanderers. And people who understand that are able to, it's like moving in time, but at the same time knowing that everything is connected. And through quantum physics, we understand that we are able to have entangled particles which affect each other instantly. So if a person from the sixth dimension would be able to know these things and be able to activate abilities. Now, seventh and eighth and ninth, I'm sure a person would be able to do things that we don't really understand now. You may believe that or not, it's up to you. And as I said, when we go into those higher dimensions, it's very personal, and a person's, effort in a sense, and how much they want to go further in the dimensions and their awareness. They will find things that may not be even very similar to another person, because it becomes you are one with everything that exists around you and that you know of. So considering this topic, please read more about it. It is a very fascinating topic, and even in your awareness journey, notice how you're moving on with the dimensions, and you will notice things that are much different than when you're in a different dimension. Until next time, thank you for listening. Bye.